Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Mugwump Tower, this is Albatross 1-3, requesting permission to land. Over.
I don't need a computer to tell me how to land a damn airplane.
6.
Heads-up display, check.
5,
Lasers, check.
4,
Particle beam, check.
3,
Photon bolts, check.
2,
Chair control, check.
1.
Let's do it.
Broadcasting from a secret underground location somewhere in Mos Eisley, this is the Docking Bay 77 podcast. Make yourself comfortable. The show is about to start. Hello and welcome to the Docking Bay 77 podcast. I am Dayton Johnson and I'll be your mariachi for the evening. I'm looking for a man that calls himself Bucho. I have a guitar case full of guns and a couple of friends I can call. Allow me to introduce Campa and Kino. We have Vermillion and Scott Hoffman. Grab a couple of mugs of pissworm Chango because we're discussing Desperado.
Desperado, why don't you come to your senses?
No, not the song from the one and only Eagles. Maybe some other time, though. We are discussing the 1995 film written and directed by Robert Rodriguez.
When they shattered his world,
They killed the woman I love. There is no payback for that.
really, he went looking for revenge.
I know who you are.
Will you help me?
But what he found was something more.
Let's play.
Antonio Banderas,
Did I thank you?
No, you didn't.
I will.
Desperado, rated R.
All right, so first of all, hello, Scott. How's it going?
Good. Yeah, I was just on another podcast with a bunch of real lowlifes. Not like the upstanding gents we've got here.
Oh, love it. And Mike, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. I am relaxing after pulling up about a 24 fence posts with concrete bottoms.
So this is a better way to spend your day, I guess.
Yeah, I'm relaxing into the perfect scenario. Yes.
All right, sounds good. All right. Yes, as I mentioned, we're discussing Desperado, the film from Robert Rodriguez. So let's hit some opening thoughts on this movie. Mike, when and where did you see it, and what'd you think about it?
Middletown, Ohio, with a girlfriend at the time, obviously.
Right
there at the intersection of what is it? The mall intersection right there. Across from there was theaters.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it recently closed. So yes.
Oh well, that's no longer there. Well,
yeah, it's been through a couple different owners, but
yeah,
it's closed now.
And theaters is kind of a tough sell. But anyways, that's where I saw it. If anybody wants to take the time to go to Middletown, it would be across from the Middletown Mall.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the corner of Cincinnati, Dayton, and 122, actually, if I remember right.
Boom, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, that's where I saw Home Alone. I remember going to that one to see Home Alone. Long time ago. Anyway, so what did you think? What'd your date for the night think of the movie?
We both loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was an Antonio Banderas fan. I had a crush on him. It didn't hurt that I had long hair at the time.
Right.
Yes. But I was all right because, there was a beautiful woman cast in this movie as well, too. So it was an equal opportunity fantasy.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. There was a little something for everybody. So, all right. Very good. All right. How about you, Scott?
Yeah, I also saw this in theaters when it came out. So probably Eastgate or 275 East or Kenwood Town Center. Instantly became a fan of Robert Rodriguez. Really made me want to see El Mariachi as soon as I knew it even existed. Immediately after seeing this, I just wish I had kind of seen it in reverse order. But
right.
Was very happy when I saw this. What about you?
So I'll be honest, I'm pretty sure I rented this because around this time, I was not going to the theater nearly as much as I wanted to. Combination of the person I was with wasn't a fan of the movie theater, and also just financially, not always an option. So you had to pick and choose. But I remember hearing about El Mariachi and hearing the story, and then I remember hearing about this, and it's a sequel and everything else. So I was excited for it. And when I finally rented it, like you went back, I'm like, I got to watch El Mariachi now, which is really, really cool. And this kind of started off my Antonio Banderas man crush that I had for a while, watching Assassins, Mask of Zorro. It just was like, just one more movie, Evita. It's just like, let's watch some more of him. So it's a fun movie. It's a super fun film. It's definitely kind of a modern day spaghetti Western, just turned up to 11. So, yeah. And, I have the DVD, I had the VHS, I have the CD soundtrack, and I also still have the cardboard cutout that we had at Suncoast when it hit video. So I still have that as well. So yeah, big fan of this movie. So I'm super excited to talk about it. All right, let's move on.
That's the fact, Jack! That's the fact, Jack!
It's time for That's the Fact, Jacked. These are some production facts about the film and some facts about our writer-director. So first of all, Desperado was released August 25th, 1995, starring Antonio Banderas, Salma Hayek in her breakout role, by the way. Cheech Marin, Quentin Tarantino has a cameo. Joaquin de Alameda, Steve Buscemi, Danny Trejo in one of his earlier roles for sure. And the original mariachi, Carlos Gallardo, appears as I believe it's Campa in there. He's the one. Yeah, he's the one with the rocket launcher. So that's him. Original music by Los Lobos, produced by Los Hooligans Productions and Columbia Pictures, and distributed by Sony Pictures. Budget of only $7 million, which is nothing, even for 90s standards. Box office of $58 million, so that's quite a good investment and return on. Runtime of 105 minutes, so it's a pretty quick film, especially for the 90s. Shot on location in Ciudad Acuna, Mexico. Since Banderas was cast as the mariachi, the flashback to the final scene of El Mariachi had to be reshot. The original cut of the film received an NC-17 rating due to violence. It's not surprising. Some scenes that were trimmed included the deaths of Tarantino's character and Trejo's character, but the final shootout at Bucho's mansion was really the biggest victim of the MPAA rating. So much had to be cut from that scene that Rodriguez opted for the fade-out version we see in the final film. Now, this was very interesting. I didn't know this until recently. Raul Julia was actually originally cast in the part of Bucho, which I think is a fantastic choice, but unfortunately he passed away before production began. So those are the only film facts I have, really. Scott, what do you have on Robert Rodriguez?
So as a filmmaker, Robert Rodriguez is a force of nature. He shoots, edits, produces, and scores most of his own movies, starting with, like you said, 92's El Mariachi. In his book that he writes about making that movie, called Rebel Without a Crew, he tells the story of how he poured everything he had into that first one, raising $7,000 through several unconventional means, including volunteer medical research, where he decorated poop with Mr. Potato Head parts. Read the book for sure. He went on quite a journey and turned that 7K movie into a blockbuster that made $2.6 million and captured widespread acclaim and attention, including several awards, including the Sundance Film Festival. He's often pretty humble in crediting himself in his films, even though he's that definitive one-man crew. Like I said, skills include producing, directing, writing, editing, director of photography, camera operator, Steadicam operator, composer, production designer, visual effects supervisor, and sound editor on most of his films. Although when you look at the credits for something like Once Upon a Time in Mexico, it just says shot, chopped, and scored by Robert Rodriguez. Right. He's used the term mariachi style to describe his approach, saying that creativity, not money, is used to solve problems, which you definitely see in those first two movies.
Right.
He's got a style and approach that's all his own, which resulted in several other groundbreaking films, including 2005's Sin City, where he bucked convention to invite comic creator Frank Miller to co-direct and ensure a faithful adaptation panel for panel of his popular dark horse neo-noir crime thriller. He's one of the key filmmakers in a new generation that reminds me of Spielberg, Lucas, Coppola, and Scorsese in their early days, because he's friends with Quentin Tarantino, who we'll probably talk about a little bit today, and Kevin Smith and several other independent filmmakers in the early 90s. He started his own production company, Los Hooligans, named after a comic strip that he based on his own family in high school. That company turned into Troublemaker Studios, which helped bring numerous films to the screen, including Four Rooms, the Dusk Till Dawn movies, the Spy Kids movies, the Sin City movies, the Machete movies with Danny Trejo, Grindhouse, and several episodes of Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, among several others. He's also a filmmaker that has never lost his independent spirit, which he's focused on helping others follow his example with projects like his 10-minute film school series of videos. He's been changing the film industry since he became part of it, and Desperado is just one of the amazing examples of his unmistakable influence.
So I want to tease an upcoming episode. He was actually second unit director for Guillermo del Toro on Mimic.
Really?
Yes, he was.
Interesting. That'd be a good one to talk about.
Yep. Awesome. Let's move on.
That was totally wicked!
It's time for That Was Totally Wicked. These are things we love about the movie. So, Mike, what's something you love about Desperado?
Salma Hayek.
Oh, there's a big surprise. That's an incredible. I think I'm going to have a heart attack and die from that surprise.
I think we all agree on that.
My first note is Salma Hayek's introduction, because that scene with the cars crash.
The car crash. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's one of the greatest character introductions in film. Top 10 easily. So yes, we're on the same page. Very good. All right.
Right. So also though, one of my favorite things is the guitar case full of guns. The myth, the legend, the reality. As a shooting enthusiast, I thought that was just too cool to see a suitcase open up and I have one of those and I need to get another one of those. And I was like, I was on board with this choice of weapons.
Do you have a crotch rocket? Never mind. That's also completely different.
A crotch revolver.
That's right. There were actually 2 deleted scenes using that, and they're both cut out. So anyway,
they saved that from Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, right. That's right. They used it there. I actually believe they used a machete as well. So he got to use it eventually. So yeah, and actually, I have a question for Mike. How much ammo do you think he went through in his little adventure in this movie?
Easily upwards of 6,000 to 10,000 rounds.
I was gonna say there's a lot, man.
Dude, yeah, the reloads and all that stuff. Yeah, it's not capable. But anyways, you display your belief and you watch a movie, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, you have to.
Yeah.
At least it showed him reloading, because there's a lot of action movies where you never see that. So at least there's that.
Slow motion when he was charging his pistol again, and he comes back up, and yeah, great scene.
Yep. All right, Scott, something you love about Desperado?
I've got 4 things that I want to point out. I'll keep them quick. That opening scene with Steve Buscemi,
yes,
starts like a gunshot. Like there's no opening credits, there's no opening crawl. It's just kick of the door open. It doesn't miss a beat with that storytelling. He chews the scenery, and it's fantastic. And Cheech Marin in those scenes, when he's wagging the toothpick.
Yes, right.
Listening to that makes me laugh every single time.
That's some solid acting too, because that's a choice. You know what I mean?
Yep. I don't know what else to call them aside from the echo shots, where they'll have they're walking toward the camera and there's kind of a cut crossfade of another one. It's kind of like overlapping shots of the same kind of sequence.
Yes.
He used that kind of shot several times. I thought that was used to great effect.
Especially on the building after he drops the hand grenades.
Yes. Walking away from the explosion.
Yes, very cool. Very cool.
You got to mention Danny Trejo's assassin character. Absolutely badass with no lines at all.
Right.
I don't know what the plan is once he's done with the throwing knives. Like he's got to go over to the bodies and kind of get them back and then do it all again, I guess. But
they're pretty deadly, man. Usually 1 or 2 of those drops people like nothing.
Absolutely. And this is my first time seeing that Danny Trejo even existed.
Right.
So since then, it's like whenever I see him, I'm like, all right, my butt's in the seat. Here's the ticket. Let's go for the ride.
Right.
And the last one is just Campa and Kino.
Right.
His friends with the rocket launcher and the twin guitar Gatling guns. That was such a great. You can see that Campa was loving those guitar cases that were like machine guns that looked like it was a lot of fun to film.
Oh yeah, for real. Okay, so Well, you took a couple of mine, so that's cool. But no, just the action sequences, the level of uh ridiculousness, but at the same time, you don't care. Like when the guy jumps off the bar and he lands on his feet, and then he launches him into the air and just shoots him into the ceiling, basically, and just stuff like that. And one guy, during the flashback at the beginning, he basically takes his sawed-off double-barrel shotgun and like not only shoots him, but like throws him in the air at the same time. It's just stuff like that. You're just like, what the hell? Where did he come up with this crap? It's just it's hilarious and fun to watch. But there's a lot of tight close-ups, a lot of quick edits, a lot of fun angles that make all the action sequences just fun and entertaining to watch. And I think that's great. And so much blood in this movie, just so much. Not, I mean, when they're mopping the floor in the bar to when when Banderas is ripping the throwing knives out of his back and out of his arm, and then immediately right after that when he finds a little boy and he's following him, and then that blood's just a trail against the wall as he's just falling against the wall whole way. So much of that's just like, how much blood can we use, and can we just make it look great? And yeah, it's fun. And aside from all that, and I really enjoy his relationship with the little boy, because it, I mean, yeah, we kind of root for him because he's on a revenge mission, and we know that he lost everything, so this is all he has right now. But with the little boy, you kind of see a different side of him, and I like that. And it's also very clever because when he gives that little guitar lesson, he shows him, here, you need to play this, learn to play this, practices every day, all day. Well, then outside of the bar, the little boy's playing it. So that little kind of teases the fact that maybe these two are related, because Bucho hears that melody and triggers a memory in him. You can see the look on his face. There's that little look of recognition. So the first time through, you don't really think much of it, but then when after you see it, you're like, oh, they're brothers. Spoiler. You're like, oh, that was on purpose. That's actually kind of clever. And so I really do like that. And I think that's a nice little added touch that a lot of action movies don't think about stuff like that. And I thought that was a good touch. So
that was interesting. I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah, it's the same, because like he's sitting outside the bar and he has that moment where he's like looking around and he looks out and he hears the kid playing what he's supposed to practice. And we know that that Banderas' character was the mariachi in the family. So if you watch, there's that little look of recognition on his face when he hears that note, that tune. So,
well, and there's one line that kind of throws you off the scent, because when obviously spoilers, when Steve Buscemi's character Buscemi gets taken out, and he's kind of lamenting that, he's saying he's like the brother I never had, or something.
Closest thing to a brother I ever had.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And it's kind of like, okay. But yeah, I love the fact that, as much as, especially if you don't see El Mariachi, you don't necessarily know Manito's story in this. As far as anybody else knows, he was born an assassin. He's been doing this. He just happens to, guitar playing is something he does on the side, right? Where it's actually the reverse. He was very much an accidental assassin that just happened to be very skilled at it. But he always says, when Bucho is dead, it's over, which I would hope means that he gets back to playing his guitar, or trying to figure out how to do so, even though he might not be able to with a shot hand. But
that's part of his anger, is he can't go back to that either. Not only did he lose the woman he loved, but he can't play good music anymore. They show that a couple of different times. Like when he's teaching the little boy to play, he's really struggling to hold that chord.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. All right. Anything else people want to throw out that they loved about this movie before we move on? All right.
No, sir, I didn't like it.
It's time for No, Sir, I Didn't Like It. These are things we don't like or don't work within the movie. So, Mike, something that doesn't work.
Something that doesn't work was, and it is what it is, but the amount of blood that some of these people were supposed to lose and still be like coherent, and patched up in 20 minutes and back into the fight again. You mentioned the scene where he's dragging and thumping up against the walls and leaving just smears of blood all over the place. I'm like, that's liters of blood, that's but that's this film style making that we get when we watch it. So there was just a couple scenes I'm like, okay, I'm calling bullshit. Nobody did that much.
To be fair, after that, when he gets back to the bookstore, he does almost pass out from lack of blood. From losing blood. He does. He just falls against the table. She's like, okay, back on the counter. So, but yeah, no, I agree. It is. It's kind of like, suspend belief for pretty much every single fight scene in this movie. Yeah. All right, Scott.
There's a couple of things, but I think the one that bothers me most is even though Benito is a badass, obviously, but he's also a supreme jerk. Like he's not a nice guy. Like he's not. Wait
a minute. I don't see that. Wait a minute now.
Okay,
all right,
so
try to explain this
scene. So Buscemi comes into the to visit him after he's gone to the bar and spread his legend and whatever. Knocks on the door. He knows that it's him, and he's like, "I'm your only friend. Open the door." So he opens the door and then smacks him on the head with the gun, holds the gun to his head as he's walking in, and then smacks him on the back of the head. And it's like, screw you, man. I don't need this. Like, you're out for revenge. You're on a suicide mission. God be with you. And there's just times when I would not talk the way he talked to Carlina. My God, Salma Hayek is gorgeous and a badass in her own right.
Right.
Like she can hold her own, obviously. She just cracks a book open and then does minor surgery on him. And there's just so many times when, he's, suave and debonair and all this other kind of stuff. But there are times when I feel like he's mistreating her. And I'm just like, man, listen, you got a second chance of love with this gorgeous woman that happens to want to tolerate your BS and get shot at, which you wouldn't be going through if it wasn't for you. Losing all her money in the bookstore, the money's in the banana stand, like loses everything. So the times when he mistreats her, I'm just like, man, you're on thin ice. Trust me, do not blow this. Everybody in the theater is saying, do not blow this. I'm Hayek.
Right.
So.
Yeah. That actually kind of leads into one of the things I had an issue with. So, I mean, we know we're going to have a romance. That's just how it works. But they're 24 hours after they meet, barely 24 hours after they meet, they're in bed together. Now, whatever, that's fine. I'm not, no judgment. But if I'm supposed to believe this relationship, that's a little quick, especially for her to like risk her life and her well-being, and to your point, he's not always nice to her, but I guess it balances out at times. I don't know, but that just seemed awfully quick. So, whatever. So I actually have quite a few, as much as I love this movie, I have quite a few complaints. So here we go. After the second bar fight, the one at the Tarasco bar, and he's escaping down the street, right? And that's when, of course, we meet the lovely Salma Hayek. Tavo follows him for an entire city block. He has two guns. Now there's that great shot where he passes Trejo's character. So it's like, great. And then he has the stuff swinging back and forth, things that are for sale on the street. So there's lots of great shots, but dude, what the hell are you waiting for? I mean, seriously, he gets right there and they're like 4 or 5 feet away from each other when he finally shoots, and he still only hits him in the arm. And it's just like, what the hell are you waiting for?
I looked at it a second time and he only fires one of the guns. And I'm like, hold on a second. Even if you're going to say that maybe the second one wasn't loaded, which makes him equally stupid because he's going to run after this guy with an unloaded gun. Like, and if it's not loaded, throw it at his head. Like, do something with it. But like, you're this close, you're bound to get killed. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this plays into my comment earlier about Raul Julia. I am not a fan of Joaquin de Almeida's performance in this movie. I can't stand the sound of his voice. And when he yells, it's so much worse. It grates on my nerves. And fine, I can deal with that, but he gets a little too off the rails too quickly. And we have the same scene just shot different ways every time. He sends his people back out. No, there's somebody out there. Go get him. No, there's somebody out there. Go get him. Or I'm going to go this time. And it's the same scene, just shot different ways. And it gets really redundant and old. And I'm just like, okay, just get to the point. And I am not a fan of dumb criminals in movies. Okay. And these guys are dumb. They're just, they're terrible shots. There's 30 of them in that damn bar, and he does, Banderas doesn't get nicked one time. Just one.
They're from the Stormtrooper shooting academy.
Oh, now let's not start that narrative.
Say that as well.
No, I don't buy that. No, it's just he takes more damage from the throwing knives than any other than bullets. So I just find that kind of like, okay, come on, let's just at least whatever. So speaking of Bucho's thugs, we have the new guy fight with Christos, right? It's like, is my sister's cousin or whatever. He gets in there to fight him, and that guy gets the snot kicked out of him, like multiple shots to his head. He gets kicked in the face and in the head with a boot, right? And there's no marks on this guy's face. I mean, at the end of the scene, he gets his leg broken and stuff like that. So, okay, fine. But, yeah, it's like Christos is beating the snot out of him, and there's nothing wrong with his face. I'm just like, so it's like, there's blood everywhere else in this movie, except the guy getting pummeled in his face. It's like, what, come on now. Let's just, a little bit of blood, something. I mean, come on now. Anyway.
I will agree that Manito is probably the luckiest guy in this era of cinema, right? Aside from the fact that he scores Salma Hayek.
Yeah, he gets shot once. Yeah, he gets shot once. And even in the Tarasco bar, the one guy literally has the gun pointed at him. And he's like, not yet. Which is great. He throws his arms up, the guns come out. I'm like it's like, what were you waiting for?
Well, I'm thinking of the several times I remember seeing him being able to stand in this flurry of like the bars exploding, the walls behind him are exploding. It's like he's phasing or something like that, because he can stand there and reload and throw out these little quips and then shoot. And when he shoots, there's times when he's like, it's like he's got salt and pepper shakers. Like,
yeah,
he's got to throw the bullet out of it.
This is before was it Wanted? With the
bending the bullets.
Yeah, it's kind of
the shots that he gets with Red Dead Redemption accuracy without even looking is just like, okay.
It's still cool though. It's still cool. It's definitely a style, and that's fine, But yeah, it's like I said, I do love this movie very much, but there's just a lot of things where you're kind of like, that's fine, because I'm not watching it for depth. I'm not watching it for consistency. I'm watching it, as Buscemi's character does, tear the place apart, because that's what he does, and that's fun. So anyway, any other complaints? Anything we don't like before we move on?
You guys hit the notes on the rest of the thing, so I'm good.
I got one thing that works very well, but it gets me every time.
All right,
that disgusting bathroom stall that Quentin Tarantino has to walk into.
It's awesome.
It looks like Jackson Pollock directed a Pepto-Bismol commercial.
Wow.
No, nobody's going through that. It just looks like somebody took like it's horrible. It looks like somebody, put Skyline chili in a t-shirt cannon and just obliterated the place. Like, wow.
Well, nobody's going to try and go in there. So, you're keeping people out for sure.
That's true.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So yeah, let's speaking of that scene, the scene right before that with Tarantino and the pickup guy. Yeah. That joke takes 10 minutes for him to tell. Just saying. It's a very Tarantino delivery. We can't argue that for sure.
I do like the way it ends though, where he's like, "Hey, guess what?" and shoots the other guy in the face, and he's like, "He didn't check out, but you check out just fine."
He's got his partner's blood splattered all over his face.
Right, exactly.
I love it. It's so fun. All right, cool. All right. So we're gonna take a quick promo break, and when we get back, we're gonna hit some favorites and give this film a rating.
If you like fun, then you're gonna love the Beard Owl Podcast. It's a podcast where we talk about two of the greatest things in the world, beer and Weird Al. And frankly, we talk more about Weird Al than anything because he's the gift that keeps on giving. So join us as we talk through Weird Al's career, what he means to us, and we have some very special guests on to discuss the magic that is Alfred Matthew Yankovic. Beard Al, part of the Odd Pods Media Network.
What was that laugh? I asked myself. I'm trying to recreate that as much as possible. I don't think I've ever laughed like that in my life. That was new. What is that? This is my new laugh for 2024. New year, new laugh.
We have a spanking new podcast for your ear holes called Doom Generation.
Available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Later, Doomers.
Why are you smiling like that?
I just like to smile. Smiling's my favorite.
Make work your favorite. That's your favorite, okay?
Okay.
Work is your new favorite.
Fine.
All right, it's time for Smiling's my favorite. Favorite characters, scene, and some other things. So, first of all, Scott, who is your favorite character?
I'm torn. I'm not going to give a Hoffman answer. I just got to get one.
Right.
So I will say Cheech Marin as the bartender. He had so many great lines, so much great delivery. Like I said, even just, wagging a toothpick.
Right.
He's amazing in this one. And I love seeing him. Yeah. If I can only choose one, I'll say that because I've already said enough about Salma Hayek's Carolina.
Right. Okay. Well, that actually was my choice. As much as I wanted to be Banderas, in the 90s, Carolina is she's the most redeemable character in the entire film. She wanted to have a bookstore in a town that nobody's going to read. She probably read all the books in there. Like you said, she was doing surgery on him using the book. And, she was willing to help this guy, even though she knew it was going to bring trouble to the bookstore. So, she does everything right in the movie. So, she's just gorgeous. And I'm just going to point out that usually for like years in Hollywood, as actors and actresses get older, usually according to Hollywood standards, the women aren't as attractive when they get older and the men stay, handsome and whatever. I'm just going to say that Salma Hayek's gotten more beautiful
Yes.
as she gets older. I mean, she just, she wears that very well. And, Banderas is still a handsome guy, but, I think she won that battle for sure. Anyway, moving on.
Oh, yeah.
just still freaking gorgeous. All right, Mike, your favorite character.
I wanted to see him in the movie more with Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, I would have liked to seen him more, but
I'm like, I like him. He's always, no matter what role he's playing, he's always right into that character. And so I was like, all right, rooting for this guy, and then he gets killed. I'm like, well, this is bullshit,
Screw this movie.
I mean, he for this story arc, he did need to die. Let's be honest,
right?
This guy he loses everybody for the most part, So, but yeah, I did debate having him as my choice because, to Scott's point, he does own that first scene. Telling the story about the biggest Mexican he ever saw, and I like how he goes, "Can I get a cleaner mug? This one's dirty."
Screw you, man. It's the best one I got.
Yeah, I love it. So, all right. Yeah, that's a good answer. All right. So, favorite scene, Scott.
I'm going to go back to when he's teaching the kid how to practice guitar.
All right.
The more I've seen this, that feels like one of those moments where he's really getting back to that love of being a mariachi.
Right.
And the hope that he's going to give it up. I kind of wish that in the ending scene, I know it's, symbolic him throwing it away, but then he kind of reverses that by picking it back up. And it's like, you could have thrown it away though and said no, I've got my guitar. Let's go live our life. And,
right.
But specifically playing with that kid, and as much as that kid comes back as kind of a recurring minor character,
right.
I think that was a great addition.
All right. Yeah. So I'm actually going to go with the bookstore scene with Bucho. When he after it's right after the whole scene at the church and everything else, and the mariachi's hiding behind the bar. It's a very tense scene, and Carolina is trying so hard not to give anything away, and here you have Miguel sitting there trying so quietly to change the clip in his gun to to do everything without making a sound. And really there's a great shot. It's super tight. Like he pops out the clip and checks to see if if it has a bullet left in it and one round left in it. And even though his mouth is out of focus, you can see him utter the word "fuck." It's like, I'm out. Yeah. So he has to, it's a great shot. And, Bucho is just, he's just creepy. He comes in, automatically comes over there and kisses her and acts like he's God's gift to women. And then as the scene plays out, she's more and more becoming more concerned. But at the same time, I can't let him figure anything out because then I'm dead. So, the scene builds really well, and it ends with that great jump scare with the cash register popping the drawer open. So, it's a it's well put together scene. It builds tension and it's done very well. So that's my favorite scene. Even with all the spectacular shootouts, that's actually my favorite scene. Yep. All right, Mike, your favorite scene?
The final shootout. I was going to go, but you so eloquently did the whole bookstore scenario. Some of the reasons why I like that, I'm like, but no, it's a really strong second was the final shootout scene where everybody's just going cuckoo with guns. I mean, and like you said, how many rounds do we fire? And how many times should they reload and all this other stuff? It's just, and the mariachis having, their guitar cases with weapons in them that are rocket launchers and, Gatling guns. What? Yeah, you got to go with that. That's.
Well, there's a pretty slick shots. Like I love when Banderas ends up on the hood of a car, and his arms are going one way, his legs are going the other. It's just there's some really cool scenes, really fun ones too, because he's inside the truck that's in pieces. He jumps in there to hide, and then he pops back out after Campanquino starts shooting just to kind of check and see what they blew up. The expression on his face is great. So yeah, it's a fun scene for sure. I'm not quite sure how the guys, how Bucho's men knew to go to that one particular street to find those three guys, but whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, for all the guns they have in that town, if they could have found a sniper, it would have made this a much shorter movie. I love in that fight scene how Campa and Kino show up with their guitar cases, and you expect they have the same, they're equipped in the same way that Manito is.
Right.
But that kind of subtle look where one uses the rocket launcher and kind of shrugs at the other one's like, I mean, that's what I got. What do you got? And then Campa comes out with the machine guns, and they're kind of like, yeah, one-upping each other. And Manito probably seems like he's like, well, geez, I just got handguns in a guitar case.
Right.
You guys got rocket launchers. What am I supposed to do?
Oh, that's funny. Love it. All right. So we're gonna hit some favorite films from our leads and or our director. So obviously, if you don't have one for everybody, that's cool. But Banderas, Hayek, Buscemi, and or Rodriguez. So I actually have one for each. So I'm gonna drop them very quickly. For Banderas, it's The Mask of Zorro, some of the best swordplay that decade and possibly in recent 20, 30 years since the movie came out. It's not one of her greatest roles, but I love Fools Rush In with Salma Hayek and Matthew Perry. It's just such a fun movie, and she's just even more gorgeous there than she is in this one. And it's a cute movie. I really enjoy it. I've watched it way too many times considering how silly it is. But anyway, and then a missed, very underrated movie, based on a comic book as well, though. Ghost World with Steve Buscemi, with a very young Scarlett Johansson. He plays a kind of a nerdy guy that has a record collection, and he's actually a very sweet character, something we don't usually get from Buscemi. So I really enjoyed that one. And then aside from this one, I'm going to go with Sin City, because I just think he did so much good stuff in that comic book adaptation. So those are my four real quick. So Scott, what do you got?
I'm lined up with you on a couple of these. For
right.
Rodriguez, I'll agree on Sin City. While it's not one that comes back into my queue pretty often, the fact that he was so panel for panel loyal to what Frank Miller put together, I think is incredible. And I remember just being awestruck at all the beauty and spectacle of that movie. For Banderas, I absolutely agree with Mask of Zorro. That's one that's like Shawshank Redemption. When it comes on, everything else stops, and I'm watching that from beginning to the end. For Steve Buscemi, I'm going to go with Monsters Inc. with his role as Randall.
That's a good choice, actually.
I know that it's not like, maybe considered a main character, but his voice work in that and the design of that character to go with that voice, I just thought was pitch perfect. For Salma Hayek, I absolutely want to check out Fools Rush In based on your recommendation.
It's a fun movie. It really is. It's just a fun movie.
I thought Hitman's Bodyguard was.
See, I haven't seen it. It's on my list. I just haven't watched it.
I think that's a great one that shows that she's drinking the same blood of the innocent that Paul Rudd is feasting on, because she just doesn't age. She just gets better.
Right.
So that's my list.
I will say that she was the best part of, was it Savages? Did you ever see that one? She was the best part of that movie.
Yeah.
So that one as a movie, it missed the mark, but she was definitely the best part of it. So, all right, Mike, what have you got?
Well, you guys, I feel so silly, but you guys really just hit a lot of the same marks I was going to go on. So yes, Sin City for Rodriguez, absolutely. Bandero, yes. Zorro. I mean, so I'm like, I'm a broken record at this point. But this film for Salma Hayek, I think it made her who she was. She exploded after this, and obviously acting talent, drop dead gorgeous. So she deserved to break out with this movie. So that's why it's my favorite. Buscemi. There's so many crazy movies that he's in. But mine would probably be Fargo.
Good call.
I really hate that movie. I really do. I've gotten so much shade for not loving that movie like everybody else does. I'm like, then I might have to be an episode to rewatch and see if I still.
Why I Hate Fargo by Dayton.
Yeah, it's just, I could write an essay on everything about that movie I don't like. So anyway, I just want to say it was Frida, if you haven't seen it, based on this true story of the artist. It's a very good movie. It really is. And, it takes a lot to make a unibrow sexy, and, Salma Hayek has no problem doing that. So, it's a good movie. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm, focusing on her just looks, but she did a great job with that film. And, it's one that gets forgotten in a lot of the other action films and stuff that she makes. And I think that's something that you need to check out as well. So, all right.
If I can just drop one honorable mention.
Go right ahead.
Steve Buscemi in Airheads as Rex. I don't see that movie very much, but damn, he was great in that.
Yeah, that's a fun movie. It really is. Of course, you have Adam Sandler and
Brendan Fraser.
Thank you. Who we we just mentioned on our top 7 films of the 90s. One of Robert's picks was Gods and Monsters with which is a fantastic movie if you have not seen it. It was a great movie. Check out those lists. There's some really quality movies, because as I've said numerous times, and I said on that particular episode, that I consider in my lifetime the 90s were the best decade of films for sure. And prove me wrong. I'm like that guy in the meme, prove me wrong. because you can't anyway. All right, so let's hit a final word and rating 1 to 5 film reels on Desperado. Scott, you go first.
I'll give it a 5 out of 5 because, on the multiple rewatches of this, it didn't get old.
Okay.
It's definitely a great way to start on the Robert Rodriguez catalog, although I'd say absolutely, if it's your first time seeing it, don't stop here. Check out El Mariachi. Check out Sin City. Check out all the other work that he's done. I think he's a spectacular director. Including The Mandalorian, including Book of Boba Fett.
Right.
When I saw that he was associated, I was like, that right there is why.
Yeah, there's some great. It's like you can tell after you see the credits, you're like directed by. You're like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly.
That makes sense. And honestly, the Spy Kids movies were fun too. What I mean, he was able to tone down the violence and make family friendly fare. Who would have thought that after watching these? You know what I mean? So that's a talent. That is definitely a talent. All right, Mike, rating.
I'm going to give it a 4.5, and just a few things that bothered me knocked it off just that notch. But then you got to realize you're just dropping your belief system and walking in to be entertained. So it's a solid 4.5 in my book.
All right. Wow. I'm actually going to have the lowest rating on this episode. Holy shit. Okay. So as much as I do love the film, I really do, and like I said, when we did cover the 13th Warrior and stuff like that, and I'm a fan of Banderas' work for sure. I've even seen some of his Spanish speaking roles as well. So as I mentioned before, it's a love letter to the spaghetti Westerns, modern version. But as I mentioned before, there's a lot of flaws. There's a lot of things that just don't measure up. There's some things that could have been explored and he didn't. And it was a second film. Yeah, fine, whatever. I'll give him a break. But overall, it's a 3 out of 5 for me, because as much as the stuff that's good, there's an equal amount of stuff that's not. So that's like, I would have loved to seen, had he done this like a few years later after he'd learned more stuff and storytelling a little bit better, this could have been a perfect movie. But for me, it's a 3 out of 5. It doesn't mean I don't love it, because you can love a movie and realize it's not perfect. So but yeah, there you go. All right, so fun episode that it's a popcorn movie. It's a bloody movie, but it's a fun movie. And it was a pleasure discussing it with you guys tonight. So as always, thank you, Mike.
Always, thank you.
And thank you, Scott.
Dayton, did I thank you for having me on this one? I will.
I love it. That was a great gag. It really was. Yeah. Okay, I will.
Especially her follow-up, because then she pulls up next to him. She's like, no, that's crap. I want you to thank me right now.
It's like he does it on purpose just to make sure he's going to see her later. That's what it is, I love it. All right. Make sure to check out Scott over on a film buy with Film at 45 and Phaser Set to Stun. A lot of great content over there for sure. A lot of things to keep you busy. A lot, I just recently checked out your episode on Life of Brian. 3 weeks before mine dropped. So
right. Yeah.
It's like, all right. So fun movie and great episode. So yeah, check him out over there on Film Buy.
Thanks.
All of our social media information is in the show notes. So thank you, listeners, and tell us what you think about Banderas and Desperado and the lovely Salma Hayek. What's your favorite Robert Rodriguez film? Let us know. Check out the show notes. All of our information is down there. Rate and review the podcast on whatever app you're using. If we see the review, we will share it on social media and also read it on an upcoming episode. Also, any comments you have, if we see them, we will share them on the episode as well. One of our regular listeners, Jason Coslet, recently reached out to us with his top 7 albums of the 90s, and he had some great choices on there. So check out our social media feed for that information. If you really want to help us out, you can join our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You get exclusive content, and which is a bunch of films and album reviews that couldn't quite make the regular schedule, so they're over there. And also, when I have time, I drop some behind-the-scenes videos as well. Share the podcast with your family and friends. Let them know what you're enjoying, and hopefully they'll enjoy it just as much as you do. Some upcoming episodes I want to mention. I teased it earlier. We are discussing the film from Guillermo del Toro, his first English-speaking film, Mimic. That was very cool, with a lovely Mira Sorvino in that film playing a scientist, because she can, of course, do that, because she was just that great in the 90s. See, the 90s were a great decade. There really was. I'm sorry. And we're getting back to our Metallica roots. We are discussing the album And Justice for All, which I have lots of stories for that one, because I was at the height of my Metallica fandom for sure.
Is there something to drink?
Is there something in the guitar case?
Yeah.
What?
My guitar.
Do yourself a favor, watch more movies, and remember, physical media is better than streaming. The Docking Bay 77 podcast is produced and edited by Dayton Johnson, recorded with Rode Pod mics, the Zoom PodTrack P4, and edited on Audacity. Opening music provided by Eric Jason Brock. You can find him on YouTube and Bandcamp. Thank you for listening.